programa Toshi and Katie Kichi Hang Kei anuong ding masa kahit man lamdang sa kayun la tunin lungdam thu kipa thuong gen nuam kahia ZCF Paul Piten itunget now to panong dong ina buhay na bang maamlo ina ong tung thei tate ong tung thei ina tua zana upaule Daniel anapay masawa Katie le nuto Katie le Toshi ko tengli hi program zat di manina jing chianga tungde in lam ten belong ngak la ma taw mo poi di nai ma ta hi cha topan blessing ong piak le zong double blessing kum khata ita ten zinei chi pen topa thupa hi ya mo it's very overwhelming kachia topa hoina kalung sima bangom hiam chi le kum som ni val paisai na khatwei devotion kasim devotion kanei laina lai siang tho second chronicles pan bung khat pasianin Solomon kianga banghia na dei khatong ngenin chi pen Solomonin to pa thei na le pil na chim na ong piain vai hom siam na namite nang de na ba kapi thei na ding achia tua laina Solomonin hausat na le mintan na nget masak lo manin pasian lungdam na kipa na atang kha pasianin chim na pil na apiak ba na thei na piak ba na hausat na mintan na pia tua devotion kane lai taka naute neu lai hina kalung sima bangong ki balang hiam chile pasianin ke kya dimnu o na de bang hiam ongenin ong chile bang kangen diam si kaki ngai suna reflection kaneya topa ke Solomon kianga na dot bangin ongdong hilechin leitung hausat na mintan na pil na te sangin tapani nong piak te penin pasian na sem hella nang za takin nang de na banga nung tale anun tang naw ong kizang le chi kanangen pen kalung sima tu kong phoki ka chini tun mo khong i hong nei le kum som thum le nga upau to ka kiten kum som thum le guk ahita ka kiten tu wa ka thunget na pen to pa mo hoi ong hi sakin ji hoi ong hi sakin china i katek nu jong kanu tak banga ka i jo nang aman jong atanu tak banga ong i jo nang chin thunget na kananeya to pa happy na to pan haksat na tuam kom kal to pan ong makaya tun ka thunget naung ki lai lew ta to pa tek nu hoyong hi sakin ke te amo hi non lo mo tek nu hoyong hi sakin and kamo pen katanu tak banga agape it na to ka i zo nang ke thi hin tun kalni kal khat khit cha to pan Daniel te boy na bang mam lo ang kiten le mo ni nei ding ki tai tua pen kamo te pen gal et loading in katanu tak banga ka it zo nang agape it na to ong it sakil amau in jong anu tak banga ong it zo nang mo tua kathunget na ahita ki heka mo le te ki kal in kwan thu pasiat ve nang pia seminar genina gam tuam to ma kiwaka tun mo le te ki kal igen pen tun kei ate hita ka reverser hita mo ka role pen ong kilai ta mo ka mo te pen tanu tak banga ka i jo nang chi lungsima tua nakpi na kangena topan missionary te tang thu pasien ei sunga jong om khading khangni tan katheya khangthum tan kade America khong pasien mi zatte Billy Graham example bang khangthum tan amau pasien na sema akizang oma tate laka kalungul mama hi the hi le taten pasien na sem hela itu ten pasien na sem le chi kalungul la hiya to jong pasien kianga kange tu hiya to pan tu bangong pen la itu ten jong pasien na sem thei le chi pen leitunga officer hiya ai ke le adang profession jong hoi ma to teng sangin jong pasien na sem le to pan ong sap ngaya mo to si te anew line pasien na sem diam chile ken siam lo di kapa zin ke ama moto kham thei mo ahi chiang ke motoa tuang nuam lo ke zin dinga hi man pasien na se pen zin na hi le ken sem nuam lo achia ai jong pasien amoto kham teng adam saka tun pasien na sem di na full time ong ki pia hi man I pasien pen thu pi hi wang lian hi mo ken tom chik ong gen lai leng pasien na se pen pasien na sem te nong mu ucha nu le pa Christian ai mi sung hi le namdang ai mi sung diak diakin no pasien na sem te leitunga ham pha pen hi ucha en huai ma ucha chi bang thu ki za zai ve ai jong nata teu asiam apil pasien ong sap che aphal lo tam pi o me ve pasien na sep na pen ham phau che ai ke le no leitunga minuam sa pen hi ucha ichi pen chi tak lo I hitam mo ken an pasien na to pan asap pen kalung dam luai leitunga profession laklaka ka de penin ai jong pasienin ong sap ngayin mo ong sap lo akipete pen banga effective lo mo tua hanga tuni na itate jong pasien na sem ding to pan asiam apil ahoy pen ma pasien pele hang pasien asap ahi le lungdam tang pe khele na lamet sanga thu pizo zaizo ato pan ong zat sak ding hi chi jong kongen be lap nom hi lungdame to pan thu phang pe wa cha ki khop top cha limin lim ke le singpi zcf10 ibol sa le nek thei reverend dino to thang tapa david to thangin restaurant neu khat wa ahonga mo banga koi muna hi diama soy 11 chi ama apana ka order wa hi amo tua pen ong nek sak leu chin chi ta ke le jong lungdame to pan thu pin na tang ta he no
sun pa tu ni ko kaniwa hong ding khom ningunga here no to ki hel thei pen ki khol thei jong here ki khom thei hangin hampa ka kai sama mau hi nong thei ma bangin ke kamin Toshi Mang here
ke kamin Katie
ZCF Guwahati pen ke adi ka home church hi mo it is very special for me kanule pa te church bekilawa ke adi jong ka home church hilai hi church ma khangkhia kaneu pa na Sunday school jong hia ka ZCF youth camp ma jong va pai ZCF youth camp sungama piang thak pasian into my life asmo salvation jong hwa mun manga ZCF hia usher khong jong hi music worship pa jong tum toi mana ZCF Guwahati pen ke adi ka starting ground le ong formative mama mun na hi manin hia ong pai kik kazito ong pai khom dip pen ki ngai sun khang ei lo leong tu ni hia kong ding khop thei pen hampa God is so good and God is so faithful then a sister in pa to si yong chi lewang tom ki shock sim hia kong pai teng a khang no ki ngai sun mo toi mana pasian hoi na chi ong phok sakhi avekin tuni again uteng e paw again zolo di hi manin mang paw hong gen ningo ko tom sharing nei khom di and then toicha mission to tom ong gen nom so grateful to be here today with everybody thank you for having both of us.
Yeah, so thank you for having us. We live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is where I'm from. And, oh, this is our wedding. It's not there. So Albuquerque is in New Mexico, which is in the States. It's very desert land.
Very dry.
Very dry. So this is new for me.
So a little bit about background how we met. We met actually 10 years ago in Colorado Christian University. I was doing my second year and Katie was doing her first year. And on the first day of her college, I was part of the discipleship group. So when she came her first year, the first day of school, college, I helped her move all her stuff. And it was a lot of stuff. And it was very, very heavy. I was sweating and I was thinking to myself, this girl has many, many stuff. But at least I recognize who she is or notice her. Katie, on the other hand, did not even notice I existed. She didn't even know I was there. So we met 10 years ago, and I was studying, my major was in music. Because even in Guwahati here, worship, I played music. And then in Guwahati, we had a band. I wanted to be a rock star. So I wanted to study music. So my major was in music.
And for me, I wanted to be in missions. So I majored in global studies.
Yeah, and so because we have different majors, all 4 years of college, we never once talked. We have different group of friends. However, after 4 years of college, we went separate ways.
So after I graduated, I had this long life dream of being in ministry, of being in missions. So I actually would go on mission trips every year when I was a youth. And I came to India in 2015 for the first time and was working with college students.
In Calcutta?
In Calcutta. And it was a very formative time for me, just to see God work in ways that I had not experienced in the US. So God used my first time in India to really build a passion in me to continue in ministry. So when I graduated university, I went to Athens, Greece. And I worked with college students there. We would, host Bible studies, talk with students about their faith or their questions about God. And I was there for 2 years. And while I was there, I also just noticed the severity of the refugee crisis and how many refugees were in Greece from Afghanistan, Syria. So God used this time to really build a heart in me to want to work in this kind of ministry. So after 2 years in Greece, I felt the Lord saying, continue to work with refugees. So I joined a ministry in Madrid, Spain, that we did, we had a community center where we would work with a lot of children from Afghanistan, Morocco, Bangladesh, who were seeking refuge. And we would do anything from cooking classes, and we would learn about each other's culture through food. We may have many cultural differences, but we all love to eat, right? So we would use food and our culture to establish common ground and open up doors to talk about faith.
So this was in Greece? That was with the college students? Sure. And then this is in Spain? Yes.
And on the right there, those are some of my friends in Spain from Bangladesh. And they are Muslim background and had many questions about Jesus. So had lots of great conversations about faith. And they're still searching, but I got to see them in 2021. And they were very excited to find out I was marrying someone from India. So maybe one day Toshi will also meet them. But yeah.
So while Katie was doing missions 4 years, I still wanted to be a rock star. And I wanted to go to Nashville and be a music producer. But through music, God slowly changed my heart and put me in the church. And He directed my path. And I ended up going to seminary, Denver Seminary, and got my master's in leadership, church leadership. And so I graduated. After I graduated from seminary, I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where we live now. And then 2020 happened, the pandemic happened, COVID started, and Katie had to move back from Europe because of the pandemic. and that is where we reconnected again. When she moved back, we were told by the pastor that we need to start a justice and mission outreach and mission program in our church. So the pastor came to me and said, Toshi, will you start mission outreach in our church? And then he went to Katie and also said, will you help Toshi in this outreach and mission? And in the process of doing ministry together as friends, we realized that we have the same values of hospitality, same values that God is a God of many language, God is a God of many tribes, God is a God of many culture. And so that's how we, in short, fell in love. One of the few times made me interested in Katie is, one of the first time is during the lockdown, she invited me and my friends for lunch. So for the first time, I met Katie again. And I thought, being American, she would make something like continental, like pasta or mac and cheese. But when I went over with my friends, she made naan and chicken masala. And I was so happy, living in America. I was like desiring for my home food, especially during lockdown. So that got me interested in Katie. Food. However, there's one more thing. The second time we hung out with my friends and with Katie, I know that Katie has been to many countries in the world. She's been to all over Europe. And so I just casually asked her, Katie, if you were going to take your friend, your best friend, anywhere in the world, where would you take her? And I thought Katie would say like Denmark, Sweden, places, Paris, France, England. But immediately, without skipping a beat, she said, I'll take my friends to India because I love India. And so that even made me even more excited about Katie. Because I went to Christian college. And there were many Christian circles and many people that love the Lord. However, it was very unique for me to find somebody who not just loved the Lord, but also loved India, loved the world, loved places outside of America. So when we started the Justice and Mission program in our church, we slowly fell in love. And I just want to share a little bit about why Katie, and then Katie can share about why Toshi. You want to start? Go ahead. Yeah.
So it's funny because I was working in this ministry in Spain with food, and it was food how I won his heart through cooking. But when I came back from Spain to US, I was very nervous to return home. I had changed a lot in 4 years, and I knew my family had also grown and changed. And I remember my team that I was working with in Spain, they came and they prayed over me before I left. And they asked God, would you provide a new friend for Katie, a friend that will maybe understand her experience of living in a different country, someone that could walk with her as she transitions in this new time. And when I returned to US and reconnected with Toshi again through church, I immediately felt like he was the answer to that prayer. I had wanted to be in ministry my whole life, and in one sense I felt like I was living my dream of being in missions. And I also had this desire deep down to do that alongside someone else, to do that with someone. And that was my prayer. I would just ask God, Lord, would you provide someone for me who I can not just be married to, but do ministry with? And one of my youth leaders, when I was maybe 13 years old, encouraged me to pray for my future husband. And sometimes I felt like I don't know who this is that I'm praying for, but I think God really used those prayers over those years to help me trust him with whoever he would have for me, and also surrender my desires and let God fulfill those desires in his own time and in his own way. So why Toshi? I think a lot of it, I can only say it's God's doing. It is God who brought us together, and working in the church together, discovering, we have similar values and similar desires for the future really impacted me. And I think also, seeing Toshi and his faith in God. Toshi is someone who has experienced many things, lived in different places, had different seasons in faith, maybe really strong faith, and then going through questions in seminary, and so humble. He has such a deep faith and yet remains so humble. And that was something I really asked the Lord for, was someone who could ask the difficult questions and address the hard things of life, and also remain faithful to God and to following him. So God really answered that prayer for me.
Yeah, for me, why Katie is, the first reason is I wanted someone who is not just a support, but somebody who will be my partner. What I mean by this is I grew up, here in ZCF and in this mission compound, and I saw my mom and dad do ministry together, side by side. And I've always desired, when I pray for my life partner to being in ministry, somebody who will not just support me from behind or under, but somebody who will stand next to me like this, and somebody who will walk with me in life, in ministry. And I always wanted somebody who would not just be a support, but also my best friend. And Katie is my best friend, but also my partner in ministry. And so that is an answer to prayer. The second reason why Katie is because I desired for somebody who would not just love me as a person, but also would love the extension of me. So what I mean by this is, living in a foreign land, I desired for somebody who would not just love me, Toshi, but also would love my family, would love our Zomi people, our tribe, our language. And Katie has slowly won my heart because she showed that she desires to know my language, my people. She is taking tuition right now, learning our language in the US, so that she can come to our village in Lamka, Pangzol, and also talk to my aunties, talk to Pipi, even though Pipi replies in Hindi, which now she has to learn more. So, but we are I'm very fortunate to have somebody who doesn't just love Toshi, but also loves the Zomi culture and also India, the extension of me. We just want to end today by sharing a little bit about Justice and Mission. This is our ministry that we both are leading in our church. And we've been doing this for just 2 years. And we just want to share 2 things we have learned as a couple, as couple in ministry about God while doing missions together. The first thing we learn by doing Justice and Mission outreach is that the first is God is our God who seeks the lost. That our God is a God who seeks the lost. What I mean by this is that God is in the mission of seeking the lost, with or without us. God is on a mission to seek the lost. One experience we had, both of us, about this was when we volunteered in a ministry called The Harbor in Albuquerque. The Harbor is a ministry that goes around the street. They walk in the street praying for people, handing out food to beggars, and also looking out for anybody, women especially, who are trafficked. In Albuquerque is a land, a lot of drugs, a lot of trafficking, a lot of violence. And so they walk around the street looking for people who are vulnerable and anybody who might be trafficked, and praying for them or rescuing them. So we were both volunteering for that ministry. One night our team, we had our backpacks, our bags, and we had water bottle, we had food, and we went around this street. This is a very dangerous street. A lot of gun violence, a lot of drugs. As we were walking this street, we came across in the corner of the road. This man looked very sad. He's a beggar. He's sitting by himself. And we went to him and asked him, "Do you need some food? Do you need some water?" And he replied, "Please." And we gave him some food, some water. That's how we start. And after that, we asked him, "Can we pray for you?" And he said, "Please pray for me, because my daughter, today is her birthday. Today is my daughter's birthday. And me and my wife and my family have been divorced. And so I have not seen my daughter in 3 years. And I really, really miss her. And now I'm here begging for money without a home. Will you pray for me? Pray for my daughter." So our team, we gathered around. We started praying for this man. As we were praying for this man, in the corner of my eye, I saw a girl. She was leaning against the wall. She was watching us. After we finished praying for this man, he was crying at this point. And then we went over, and this girl said, "That's a beautiful prayer. Can you pray for me too? I just came out of rehab. I've been addicted to drugs. Will you pray for me? And I feel like God is telling me to go back to rehab. But tonight I was asking God, will you show me a sign? And your prayer, I feel like, is a sign. Will you pray for me?" So we prayed for this girl as well. Her name is Angela. As we were praying for this girl, another man came on a bicycle, and he was going around in circle after he saw us praying. And I thought, I got a little scared because this is a very dangerous neighborhood. But he was circling around. But after we finished praying for this girl, he came to us and said, "I was going to the liquor store to buy alcohol because my life is really hard right now. I was going to go buy alcohol. But I felt like on my way to the store, I saw your team praying. And God must have been saying that you don't need alcohol to fix your problems. You need me." And so he came, and then he asked us, "Will you pray for me as well? I came out of prison 2 months ago, and I've been desiring to have alcohol. But now I feel like God is saying, you don't need alcohol, you need me. Will you pray for me?" So we prayed for 3 people in the span of 5 minutes. We didn't even ask them, but they came to us. And in that moment, we realized that this space where we were standing is God's space. We just happened to step into it. That God is already here, with or without us, doing His work, pursuing them, the 3 individuals. And God will continue to pursue them even after we're gone. God is on the mission to pursue the lost. You see, God is the God who left the 99 to find the one. God is the merchant who gave everything away so that He can have the one pearl. God is a God who pursued you, right? In your own story, in your own testimony, in my story, in our story, God is a God who pursued us. So it is humbling to know that we don't bring God to the lost, but we just are invited to join Him. Because when we pursue the lost, God is saying, "Will you join me?"
The second thing that we've really learned through this ministry is that God is a God who suffers with the poor. There is this story of a Catholic priest named Oscar Romero, who during the time of civil war in El Salvador, the Catholic Church sent him there. And there was a lot of injustice happening in this time in El Salvador. Lots of violence, injustice. And the Catholic Church did not want to be involved in the politics and any of it. And so they said, "We will send this man, Oscar Romero, to this church because he won't get involved. He is a very academic man. He will keep his nose in the books, and he won't get involved with everything that's happening." And for 1 year, this worked. Oscar did not get involved with the war, the violence, the injustice that was happening to many people there, until one day, one of his best friends, he was murdered in the midst of all of this because he was protecting the poor, the vulnerable. And this moved Oscar Romero's heart to follow the footsteps of his best friend. He said, that is where God is working, among the poor. And so he stepped into that space. And later on, he was also murdered for his work with the poor. But in the midst of this, he has this quote. He says, God was not in heaven in a chair relaxing. God was not in my books, but God was suffering alongside the poor. And he realized that God is present and working with those that society maybe pushes to the edge and says, we don't want to hear your voice. But God is working there. And so our encouragement and something we've learned is that, maybe we have questions about God. Maybe we have doubts about God. And maybe we can ask God, where are you? Are you in heaven, just sitting in a chair, not paying attention? Or God, are you in my books? Can I learn enough knowledge about you? And those are not bad things to question, but ultimately, I think God is inviting us to step into his space, to take that leap of faith and to step into places where it seems like God would not be. But he is present, he is working. He's working with the poor. And we can experience him there.
Yeah, God, to sum it up, God is a God who seeks the lost with or without us. He's just asking you and me, will you join? Do you want to join? He will pursue the lost or the poor with or without us. To close, Katie has been to India before, as she mentioned. The first time she came to India was in Calcutta in 2015, and it really, really impacted her.
So in preparation for this trip, I was reading some of my old journals and just reflecting about how God has also changed me since the first time I was here. And I thought I would read this journal entry to you. It says, July 10th. This is my first full day in India, in Calcutta. This city is like nothing one might experience anywhere else in the world. It's chaotic, noisy, sometimes smelly. The list goes on. But even more so than any of that, I can feel how much love God has for the people here. Every time I walk the streets, I can't help but think over and over again, Christ loves this city. Christ died for this city. And this is my encouragement to you, that God loves Guwahati. God died for Guwahati. And he's working here and present here, even when you may not see. And we just get to step into that space and join him in his work.
Thank you to ZCF Guwahati for having us today. We just want to encourage, as we continue to pray and fast and do all these good things, that we will also be close to those who are closest to God's heart, which is the poor, the widow, the orphans, the marginalized. We are very, very grateful. This is a privilege for both of us to stand here where I grew up, where I saw my dad preach, and now to be standing here together.
Yes, thank you so much. Tutung ikimute kalungdam. Wait.
Lungdam mai. Opat pa.